What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome Kopp and Nick Smith, co-founders of BluePrintRisk. To me, this is such a unique partnership because they are located in two different cities. So I'm really interested to hear more on how this works, how it was created, and just to get to know these guys a little bit better. So, without further ado, thank you for being here. Welcome to the show, Nick and Christian.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited to, like I said, really interested to hear how this works, how you came together. But, as what we always do, why don't you each tell us a little bit how you got into the insurance business and bring us up to BluePrint. BluePrint. I am sorry. I've been saying your name wrong. BluePrintRisk. I apologize.
No, it's fine, Brett. Nick, you're okay. I'll start off.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, it all started when I graduated from the University of Central Missouri, home of the Fighting Mules. Come on. Graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Safety Management way back in the 1900s, 1998.
Okay.
So during college and after, I worked for a heavy construction company as a safety and health intern, and then I graduated, and they shipped me all around the country to these power plant job sites where I learned a lot about the construction industry, safety, and how much they travel and work. So,
yeah.
And then in '99, I started working in the insurance business on the carrier side. And man, I was there, probably 9 years. Did one year stint as a marketing rep. So that was kind of fun to see what a marketing rep did, and knew what loss control reps did because I was there forever. And then I got the entrepreneur bug and made the leap from corporate to entrepreneur. With my business partners and we had a couple Papa Murphy's take and bake pizza shops. And then I realized just because you like to eat pizza doesn't mean you need to own a pizza shop.
Okay.
So they ended up buying me out, and everybody was always telling me, you should be an insurance agent. So I said, I don't know what I want to do right now, but that's what people are telling me. I'll go try it. And so
who was telling you that? I mean,
well, sometimes, yeah, when you don't know what to do, you just kind of fall into what people are saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So then in 2009, I joined an independent insurance agency that I knew pretty well on the carrier side. They were a good shop and had good people. They allowed me to get started and own my own book of business and gave me a generous commission split. They had all the markets, and also probably one of the biggest things is I got a mentor named Charlie Watts. I call Charlie my insurance dad. And he's 40 years of experience in the business as a producer. So actually just had lunch with him, catching up. Awesome guy. Pick up the phone, answer any questions, always give me the right information. Had a huge success on my career, and I really am grateful for him. And then 2007, I moved my book from that agency for one reason or another to another independent insurance agency that niches in construction, which I do a lot of construction. And my book still resides there. But in June of this year, just less than 2 months, my book will start to migrate into BluePrintRisk, our agency. So we've got an agreement in place that I kept my book there till June. So.
Nice. Nick, how about you?
Well, I started in insurance around 06, 07. Prior to that, I got my degree in graphic design, believe it or not. And I did that for a little while. Got kind of tired of being in print shops, working in the back with cigarette smoke and all that stuff. It wasn't as glamorous as they had made it out to be, because I needed to make money. I didn't need to work for, do an internship for free. I was married and I needed to make money. So I was working in print shops in the back, and I hated that. So I went into landscaping with a buddy of mine in Dallas. He had started a big commercial landscaping company. So I was doing landscape management with him and managing a bunch of crews and things like that. And it didn't go well. So our relationship kind of went south. And so I needed a job. So we were in Dallas at the time. We were flipping a house. So we sold that house and moved back to Tulsa, where my wife was raised, and it's where I met her in our first year at college. Looking for a job, I was looking for a long time, and then randomly this farmer's district manager called me out of the blue for an interview. So I went in, talked to him, and he gave me some personality test, and he called me back in. He was like, "You're a fit. If you want to give this a stab, you can start a scratch agency and we'll show you how to do it." So they kind of showed me how to do it, but mostly it was trial and error. They gave me a little bit of training. It was me buying leads, and those were the days where internet leads actually worked, and it was just getting started. So had two babies basically at the same time. They were born within a year of each other. So I needed to sell. And I needed to sell a lot to feed my family. So I grew that book from scratch over 15 years and got out, started this agency with Christian about 2.5 years ago now. So that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, let's touch on that a little bit, because I think a lot of captive agents go through that same process of you. I mean, you were there 15 years, long time. So let's just, not only are you comfortable with, how the farmer system works or that captive agent works, probably built a decent sized book of business. Tell me about when you were thinking of going independent. How does that feel? I mean, you're probably nervous. I mean, jumping from something that you're comfortable with to what made you leave? Let's start there.
Christian.
Okay.
I've known him for a long time now, and I wouldn't have done this with anybody else.
Okay.
But he had approached me probably, I don't know, we had started talking about doing this thing many years before I actually pulled the trigger.
Okay.
Because he knew I was frustrated because we talked over the years, and he knew that the future wasn't going to be good with farmers. And I could see the writing on the wall with the way that farmers was changing their commission structures, and they always followed suit with Allstate and what they did. So I knew it was going to happen at some point where they were going to start making life even more miserable for agents. So I knew I needed a pathway out. Christian approached me probably in a year and a half, 2 years before I pulled the trigger and said, "Hey, I really want to start an independent agency. I can be the commercial guy. You can be the personal lines guy." So we started planning it out many, many years before we actually did it. So, but yeah, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have a business partner like Christian to be able to rely on, because he's been in the independent side for so long. And he has a great network of, carriers that he already knows, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So yeah, I wouldn't have probably done it on my own. Too scary.
So Christian, at the time you were working at another independent agency, correct? So you were looking to start your own and thought maybe a partnership with Nick would be a good route to go?
Yeah. I wanted to collaborate with somebody, and I really hadn't written any personal lines over the years, and I live next to a lot of people like you and I, everybody that we could write their insurance. It's just money laying there, sitting there, and we're not picking it up. So I was like, man, I think Nick does a great job. This is going to be a really cool partnership because multiple streams of income. That's where it's at. It makes you stickier, makes you more money. And that's just what they teach Insurance 101 is multi-line it.
So this was a plan. This is something you guys thought about for a long time, for a couple of years, it sounds like. And so you knew you wanted to find a personal lines somebody to work the personal line side of the business, it sounds like.
Yeah, and he did a great job starting the agency and building the infrastructure, which was necessary. I mean, it's not a one person job.
No.
And so we worked together on it. But Nick did a lot of the heavy lifting to get it to where it is today. But we're excited, man, to take this thing to the next level.
The crazy thing is that when we started this, we knew that we needed a place to home Christian's book. And we had talked about it from the very beginning. Hey, how's this going to look when his book is ready to start moving over? And when he first started talking to me about it, I was like, oh, this is not going to be that big a deal to roll this thing over to us. It's just that's because I didn't know the independent channel. I didn't know how it all worked. Or how long it was going to take to build the infrastructure to make sure that we're ready to do that. And it has taken all of that 2.5 years to get all the carriers that we need, to get the infrastructure built with with our AMS, with our CRM, with our staffing. It has taken every bit of that time to get to where we are now. And thank God we started from the beginning with that in mind, or we would be way behind the 8 ball right now.
Yeah. So I'm curious, and share as much as you'd like. I'm curious how the compensation structure works for you guys. Does it go into the BluePrintRisk, account, and you take dividends from there, or does Nick's commissions kind of remain Nick's commissions, or how does that work with a partnership like yours?
Well, for the carriers pay BluePrint, and then we each take 50% commission.
Okay.
And then 50% is left in the agency for overhead.
Okay.
And we've got BluePrint. We've got a VA that we have, a U.S. VA, as well as a full-time client manager for Nick on the personal line side. She splits her time on the commercial side too, more as like a commercial lines assistant. So I reimburse BluePrint out of my entity for my commercial book. So we got a lot of moving parts, but
yeah.
So
because Christian has a full-time account manager on his commercial side as well.
I pay direct. She's a direct hire employee for my entity.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there. So when you guys got going, how did you get markets? Did you join a network of some sort, or did you find all direct markets? How did that work?
Yeah, we did. We talked to a whole bunch of different networks prior to committing to one, but yeah, we ended up joining one here in Oklahoma, mainly because I needed personal lines markets for Oklahoma, because that's where the bulk of our personal lines policies are written out of is Oklahoma.
Okay.
We do write a fair share out of Texas as well, but the network that we use does have access to some Texas markets as well. So we've kind of managed to be able to have 2 aggregators too. So we kind of some here, some there.
Which aggregator did you join?
We have the Affinities group out of Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Where they're at. Yeah.
Okay. And what made them the best fit for you guys?
Their contract was not as lengthy as far as time commitment was as the other carriers. These guys were just getting started as well with their aggregator. They had just left a big aggregator here in Oklahoma, and their non-compete was up, so they had started their own. And so we felt like we aligned with them pretty well. They're around the same age. And they were hungry to start getting new agencies onboarded too. So we kind of felt like we could almost grow together with them. And they've been great to work with. And they've been very open to, any questions that we have. They've been great to work with.
Okay. And I don't know if I clarified. So Nick is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Christian is in Austin, Texas. Does that bring some additional challenges for you guys not being in the same room?
Not really.
No.
No,
Okay.
we just kind of we got our heads down grinding, and we do EOS. So we have our weekly L10s,
Okay.
and so and we have an accountability chart. So we hold the right person accountable. Nick and I are trying to get our names off everything in our accountability chart.
Yes.
It's working well, and we just can't pop our heads into each other's office and talk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it probably enhances our productivity.
Yeah.
And all of our staff is remote too.
Yes. Okay.
That's what. So it's just how we began.
Yeah.
We knew we were going to be a full remote agency from the beginning, anyways. So it works. It didn't probably work well at first, but it works.
Yeah, you got to find your way through.
Uh-huh.
What with a couple staff that are fully remote, how do you stay connected with everybody?
We use Teams a lot. We communicate through that for all communication, really. We have meetings set for specific times. Once a week for personal lines renewals, once a month for commercial lines renewals. Then we have our L10 every Friday. But we have set meeting times to discuss certain things, and we set distinct meetings. We don't just have got a minute meetings here and there. We set meetings for when something needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
So that way we don't take them away from their day, because they're busy. I mean, they got a lot going on every day. So
yeah, and imagine when you fold Christian's book from the other agency, and now will you be also adding on or keeping that same account manager, or will you be acquiring another account manager, do you think?
I think we're going to probably stay with the same headcount right now.
Okay.
I think we're fairly overstaffed as it is. We're keeping them really busy, but my viewpoint is I'd rather be a little overstaffed than understaffed, like one account manager away from disaster.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and you don't want to burn them out, and you will if you make them do too much. Like, they're working hard right now, but that's kind of our philosophy.
And then being overstaffed a little bit, it just leaves you space for something unfortunate. Maybe somebody gets sick for a week or a vacation, and you're not, things don't slow down, when those things come up, because somebody's on vacation for a week, you just keep plowing through.
All right. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Nick, touch on a little bit what the learning curve was like going from, a captive agency for 15 years to being independent and learning whatever it is, 6 to 8 different carriers that you're working with now. It's
pretty big. I mean, I thought I understood kind of how it worked, but once I got into it, I figured out it's huge. The management system, completely different. The accounting is completely different. Like when you were at Farmers, Mama and Papa Bear, they took care of you. You just didn't see all that. You just opened up your folio on the first of the month, and magically there was money there, and it just went straight into your account, and you just kind of trusted that it all worked on the back end. But on this side, you don't get paid by the carriers for 2-3 months sometimes. You got to sit and wait, and then you got to double check and,
reconcile. Yeah.
It's a lot more than I expected it to be. We have a accountant that does all that for us. She does a great job, because I would pull my hair out if I had to do all that stuff. I couldn't sell and do what we need to do if we didn't have her. But learning what carriers want to write, what their appetite is, because they all kind of have what they want to write, learning all of that from the beginning. When we first started, I felt like it was taking us hours and hours to do quotes for people. I was like, this is crazy. I could do a quote with Farmers for it took me 15-20 minutes.
Right.
Because you only had one choice, right? It's just one carrier to go to. Now it's like there's almost too much choice. It's overwhelming. So that time that was a huge time suck. So we
Yeah.
decided, let's get a VA to help us do that. So that way I could spend more time prospecting and let the VA do all the quoting. So we've done that now. After just a couple months in the business, we've had VAs do all the quoting for us. So that's helped a lot. And then the carrier relationships, there's so many that you have to talk to all the time, and reps, and figuring out the time management of that. You didn't have to do that at Farmers.
Yeah. Right. How are you guys generating new business?
Well,
Referral marketing. I've been doing this for 17 years now. So I know a lot of people, and I just get lots of referrals from mortgage guys, finance guys, commercial lenders, current book. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Christian, how about you on the commercial side?
I'll get some referrals. Nick's the master at those. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I had no idea how you get so many referrals, but he's really good. I built my book on telemarketing, where they go and they set appointments for me. I walk in, I pre-qualify, probably walk away from 8 to 9 out of 10. As with an established book of business, you're not,
Right.
you're not quoting everything that moves. You're pre-qualifying to see how serious they are. And so I just recently turned on telemarketing again. So I'm in growth mode.
Okay. Are you still heavily focused on the contractor side?
Yeah, contractor, anything that's heavier risk. With my background, I don't focus on, I can save you 20%.
Yeah.
Of course, price is important, but helping them with the risk management piece that's the most important. If they don't value that, then they're just not an ideal client.
Right, and that's a great position to be in. A lot of us learn the contractor market the hard way. You're right. A bunch of these one-man operations that don't like to do their audits and oftentimes don't like to pay their bills, and you realize it's worse than non-standard business. When I started to get into more of the just the general contractor market, groups that have been doing it for 15 years that have their stuff, those are great accounts. Yeah, I'll write those all day long.
That's right.
So it takes us a while, right, to figure out that we can, kind of vet these guys a little bit and do a little more field underwriting than just taking anybody that walks in the door and writes us a check.
Well, that's probably one of the biggest things I learned from Christian from moving from Farmers, where you just write anything that would walk or talk. Just because you had to make bonus, you had to write that one auto policy just to get over that threshold to be able to get the bonus. He's taught me to pre-qualify everybody. We put together a persona of the ideal client. We spent a lot of time on it to figure out who we want. I stick to that pretty well. Our retention ratio is unbelievable, and we don't have a ton of service work because we spent so much time developing that persona. It's made life easier for our staff as well, because they don't have to deal with mean people that they get treated right. So leaving Farmers and learning the method of pre-qualifying has saved me hours of time, heartache, trouble, and made us more money, because the premium threshold's a lot more for those type of clients as well. So we don't have to work quite as hard, and we don't have to write as many accounts to get where we want to be as well, because the premiums are higher.
Yeah, your renewal rate's going to be higher. Everything. That takes, especially from leaving one book going to the other. That takes a little bit of patience to not just. It's when you're starting out, right? And we're starting out on the personal side to, be a little more selective, even when you're going independent. What would you guys say have been? You started this agency 2020. What have your biggest challenges been of starting the agency?
Probably cash flow is a big deal. You know, with our stance, you know, we want to be poised for growth, and we're always a little overstaffed. If you look at the numbers, if you benchmark us against the best practice, you know, I mean, in a smaller agency, you have to staff up. It's always going to look out of whack, but as you get bigger, it'll start to level out. So, you know, it just takes time to ramp up, stack those policies, and to get paid. So, but we're growing at a really good clip. Nick, we ended last year at about 200,000 in revenue, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
year before that, the first year we were at I believe about 90,000 in revenue. So, you know, when you're doubling, you know, this year we'd like to end around 550 to 600,000 in revenue.
Wow.
So you know, it's
You're
okay
growing.
to have high labor expense if you're pushing that much revenue into the agency.
Well, and then when you do, you also build a really good foundation with that group, right? I mean, you have an established process with this group, and this is how we're going to do it. So when it really starts to get busy, you don't have to answer those questions of how we do this or what do we do in this situation. For the most part, there's always going to be oddities that come up, but when you build that process foundation of how we work, it makes it that much easier when you grow.
Oh yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. Our processes are still working through all that. I don't think it'll ever be perfect,
No.
but we had Mick Hunt help us build out some of our processes through Agency Zoom that have it's kind of plug and play. If we lose somebody, you know, we can just change those tasks over to the next person, and it's start to finish from onboarding all the way to renewal, and then past renewal. Like all these tasks are set for each individual to do. So when we knew we were going to be remote. So how do you manage remote staff? Well, you got to have systems and processes in place. And how do you make sure that those systems and processes are accomplished? Well, they are assigned tasks and they have to complete those tasks. And in our L10 meetings every week on Fridays, they tell us where they're at, how many tasks are left open, how many have you completed? We go back through and check them all. So we can manage our staff being remote because of the systems we put in place in the background. So that took a lot of time to set it up.
That's time consuming. And I imagine if your revenues are increasing that quickly, you guys are producing.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you juggling the production side of things with, being the agency owner side of things?
Well, we have a bookkeeper that does a lot of the that back office work for us that Nick and I are not good at, and we're never going to pretend to try to be good at it. So, and that's a phone call that Nick's receiving. So we're multitaskers too.
You have to be.
And so, like I tell Nick, I was like, hey, dude, we're peons right now. We won't be peons forever, but peons have to be peons for a while. And then you appreciate it when you get bigger. And you can't expect to have it all from day one.
No.
So we have the accountability chart. We just shifted the responsibility of the service department, commercial and personal, to our head, account executive. So she's over that now. Which is very helpful. She's doing a great job. She's doing some training, and she'll do the annual reviews, things like that. She knows more about that than us.
Yeah.
And if we're out there, we're supposed to be out there selling. They're supposed to be servicing. Then it's a step in the right direction, although it's not perfect right now.
No, it's not. It's not going to be. At this stage, you're not even 3 years in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it took us like 3 or 4 months to even get carrier contracts because nobody works on the holidays. So because we started November 2020, and that we didn't get a contract with a carrier until probably February. So yeah, it's it's been a lot. We've pumped in a lot of premium and learned a lot, had some mistakes along the way, but wouldn't have changed a thing.
When did you start developing, processes of, and I don't know if you had a staff person right away. I know you hired a VA to help with quoting. When did you start to establish processes like, oh, we need to put these things down in writing, so as we grow, this is how BluePrintRisk works? I'm curious when that. I like to ask agencies when they started to identify and get those things going.
Probably when we hired the wrong person. We had hired somebody that I guess ultimately we just didn't trust that they were doing the job in the background, always questioning what all they were doing, like not trusting that they were getting work done, and work wasn't getting done. So, it takes that one bad hire to make a lot of different changes and
Yeah.
add better processes in the background. So I think that's probably really when we started driving hard to make sure that falls on us more than probably does on that individual, but it won't happen again as long as we keep up with the processes that we've put in place.
Yeah, it'll certainly identify those things much sooner.
Yes.
With your hires. What other challenges have you encountered in the last couple of years?
Just being small,
Yeah.
You get there's some luxury to being large. You get complexity with being large, but you get treated a little differently. You don't have carriers lining up to want to give you appointments. You have to really sell them hard. You don't have, once you get to be a huge agency, you can just play the shell game and say, hey, I got a book of business over here, $2 million in premium I'm looking to move. How about we do a deal and then you give me a override on that?
Yeah. You have a little power. You have a little leverage.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we'll be there someday, but we don't have that right now.
So you touched on a bad hire. What are there any glaring mistakes that you've made in your first couple years? You would say that you would maybe do differently the second time around?
I would say that along the bad hire, there's some good things that came out of. There's a couple of different hires that if we had back, we probably would. But we went with the least path of resistance because we knew them, both of them. We liked both of them, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and that taught Nick and I, we've got to get some accountability in place. We've got to have a way to measure and monitor and manage people up or out, and we're getting better at that. So again, we're not perfect. We're not a best practice agency quite yet, but we're working towards it.
Yep.
So, which that is the whole purpose of this podcast really is that most of us have been in the same place that you guys are right now. We come in as producers and that's one mindset, right? We're driven people. We want growth. But there's all these other things that come with an agency. You guys have opened up this this new agency, this new partnership with, I think, exciting plans. I already like your plans, as it is of growth. With that comes developing a business owner mindset, which most of us aren't. We're just not accustomed to. You mentioned the accounting, the processes, the HR piece of it. There's all these things that are melded into one that we have to learn on the fly.
That's probably the hardest thing for me is to do the owner mindset, because I'm in grind mode. I got to pump on premium. I got to make sure that we continue to get commissions in the door to make sure we pay staff and all that stuff. Like I am in mega growth mode.
Yeah.
So Christian, he's a part of EOS. He's got a strategic coach as well. So he ends up being more of our guiding light, if you might say, because he's involved in those aspects of the business. So he brings that down to me to be able to get coaching from him, and he leads our business really well with bringing that information with EOS. Like EOS has been great. Like our level 10 meetings are freaking awesome. Like there's nothing more in life that I hate than meetings and unproductive meetings. Our meetings, I rave to people about our meetings because we get stuff done in our meetings, and they're an hour, everything's timed. It's like they're fantastic. So with all the stuff that he's brought from the things he's involved with has probably helped elevate our business probably faster than most businesses, because he's involved in those things.
I think that's the strong benefit of having a partnership, is that you don't have to do everything, and you can kind of divide and conquer of, and you can figure out what your strengths are. If Christian's more on the operational side, great. And if it's not wrong that if, Nick wants to, is that's your passion to be, driven as a producer, and, and that's your strength, but you can kind of separate those business owner tasks that need to be done. I love it. I think it's great. And you guys can always work together to figure out, what, Christian's seems to have a little bit better hand with the staff. And so maybe that's going to be his role, is he does most of the overseeing and of, the managing of the staff, and, Nick handles other tasks. I love the idea of a good partnership.
Yeah. From an EOS standpoint, I'm the visionary and Nick is the integrator. So,
okay.
And we've really just kind of settled into those roles. And if you ever read Rocket Fuel,
I did.
You need them both. They're both equally important, because the visionaries out there imagining and envisioning, and then, but you have to have somebody to help you get it done. And Nick, he can tackle it, man. And he doesn't always do it. He delegates it, and the team does it. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, that's part of it, though, right? I mean, he's still overseeing it. After I read Rocket Fuel, I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I need."
Yep. And did you get it?
No.
You look
no. I did look into it, and I actually started. I actually drew an outline for it, and I put together, the entire roles that I wanted to handle. Good. And then also last year I met with Carrie Wallace just to do a valuation of my business, and we looked at things, and she said, "Well, it all sounds great. How are you going to afford that?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, we're going to hold off for now, because my payroll is a little bit on the high side as well. So I tend to like to be a little bit more overstaffed than not." But yeah, that was a fantastic book. It really was. So with that, how would you like to improve BluePrintRisk in 2023?
Nick?
It's a big year with rolling Christian's book over to our agency. It's time consuming for our staff to roll that over. It's very important that it gets done right, and keep those relationships going. So that's probably number one. Number two is we want to bring on some producers. We're poised to be able to do that with our systems and processes. Like, that's what we focused on for the last 2.5 years, is getting the carrier contracts, getting our processes in place to be able to bring on producers. And we're there. Yeah. I think we've got great things in the background. We have awesome staff. We're ready to grow more with bringing on some more producers. So that way we can, we'll bring on more account managers, all that. But it should be a big year.
How are you going to find the producers?
Relationships, man.
Okay. Have you guys, I just recently, one of the reasons why I asked, I just recently connected with, I'm hiring right now, and I just connected with Ideal Traits.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of these services out there. And I'm not looking for a producer. I'm looking for more account manager help. But I've been really impressed with it, and really impressed with the amount of candidates that I've gotten, throughout the country. And it's been really nice to have a selection of quality candidates to work with. And in fact, I had a couple that were pure producers, and I sent them over to another agency friend of mine who's looking for a producer, just because I wasn't looking for one. But yeah, I was really, really impressed with that service. It made it so much easier. Plus plus the information with their personality assessments. They had a short answer quiz and a problem solving quiz. It just gave me so much information before I even wanted to reach out to them. So it just did a lot of vetting for me up front. I was really, really happy with it.
That's awesome.
Does Ideal Traits do recruiting also?
Oh, I don't know about
That
recruiting.
Who's that other company I just sent it to?
But you were, did you advertise for the position and then you used the Ideal Traits assessment to kind of?
So I use their platform. So yeah, and they send it out to all the different, Career Builder, Indeed, and Monster. So they put your ad out to all them. And outside of what the initial spend through Ideal Traits, which I was fortunate enough with Safeco Insurance, you have at a certain level, you have a certain credit to use digital vendors, so it was all paid for through them. But yeah, so you put your ad out to these different sites, and then you can also use extra ad spend into Indeed and get many more. I didn't even have to do that, and in a span of 10 days, I got about 60 applicants.
Wow.
60 applicants, and most of them were qualified enough. What my ad was, I was looking for somebody already licensed with some experience. Most of them were that. You had a couple that worked at the gas station, were just applying for a job. But and then about half of those, a little more than half, actually filled out the assessment, which that's kind of a big thing. It probably takes a good 30 minutes for them to complete the entire assessment. So it's a little time.
Yeah.
Which that shows a little bit of,
it'll weed out the people who don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were actually a couple people that I was interested in their resume. They seemed to have a strong resume, and I actually reached out to them to say, hey, I was interested in, maybe continuing further with you, but I do need you to complete this assessment. And they didn't. So I guess, that was, told you how interested they were in the job.
Yeah.
But
that's good info, man. We'll reach out to the Ideal Trait guys. I saw them maybe one of the owners, Innovation.
Yeah, Kevin.
That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just recently, in fact, I want to have him on the podcast. I just recently connected with him. And so I was really happy with the service. We see so many of these services through, Innovation or any other conference that we go to, and you don't really know necessarily what it's going to be like or what their program can do. So for the ones that, like I said, it was easy. And even if it wasn't, to me, it was very affordable. They had 2 different levels, which is for the whole year. If you wanted to use it, was $1,000, and it would have been worth it for me to pay that just for what I received from this time around.
Well, we'll definitely give them a ring. I like that a lot. That's the gold nugget from this podcast.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad I could help.
Thank you.
Last thing before we get going, when you guys get started, and Nick, you probably learned this, or maybe Christian filled you in, is that being captive, you do have a lot of things. You do have a lot of back end things when you go independent, or I suppose, Christian, you probably had, learned this too, that, well, now you have a whole lot, so many more decisions to make, including your technology. A lot of this is just put in place. What kind of tech stack are you guys working with? I know you mentioned Agency Zoom. You use that. What else are you guys using?
We use AMS 360.
Okay, you do. Okay.
And then we've got Agency Zoom connected in with it, with our Ring Central, all connected in. And then we use Canopy Connect, and we got all that.
Yeah.
PL Raider.
Yeah.
PL Raider.
Broker Buddha.
Yep.
Okay.
What else?
What does Broker Buddha do?
It digitizes applications. So if you have a big book of E&S business, all the supplemental apps that you have to complete, you can do Accord apps with it too. But it's all sends an email to the customer, only asks the questions that might have changed from year to year. It's easier for you, easier for the client. It's an awesome system.
It took some time to get that set up, and I think our account manager wasn't too excited about it at first, but now she loves it. It is.
I couldn't take it away at this point.
Yeah, she loves it.
She might leave us.
Well, that's just it, right? With all these systems, you have to put some work into them.
Yep.
You do. I have KPA for my commercial clients, so that's a pretty robust risk management resource center that has a lot of really cool things.
Yeah, what is that? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Carruthers introduced me to it, and it's awesome for your larger commercial clients.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably 7 to 8 different things you can do with it. There's an HR component, there's safety, there's an audit track, there's a COI track where you can help them manage their COIs. If they're GC. For your GC, that would be really good. It's super slick. I can get you the info on it.
Okay.
We try to be pretty tech forward, try to be a modern agency.
Yeah.
Try to go away from that stale pale mail deal.
Yeah. As you can tell with our logo, it's a little out of the box.
Yeah,
we use Mod Advisor too. Christian just did a large work comp analysis for a guy, and that was freaking cool. Watching how Mod Advisor took all that data. It was awesome.
Yeah, and we use Canopy Connect, and it took us a little while to get going on that, but these tools are fantastic, right? I mean, once you get into them,
there's a lot of shiny objects out there too, where you kind of want to, I want that. So we have to be careful too on what all we bring on.
You do have to audit and figure out what am I using, what am I not using.
Yep.
And so I've kind of leaned out on a lot of that where we're not using as much, but what we have, we're using. And I've learned I've learned the hard way that even like the last conference that I went to, I already decided I'm not taking on anything because I'm not going to be prepared for it. So I'm not going to take on anything new unless I have a process for it to pass on. Otherwise, I'm going to just waste money for 6 months until I get going. So,
well, we also decided to invest in Premier Strategy Box, Mick Hunt's group.
Okay.
And to help us line out our CRM. And they did a fantastic job. And they also complimented Nick. They said, man, Nick's got this thing, 60-70% built. We'll just help you finish it off. So that was good.
Yeah. Last question, and then I'll let you go. Any advice you have for people that going through what you guys have just went through in the first couple of years, starting out?
I mean, for any captive people out there, don't wait. It's only gonna get worse. That seems to be what I'm watching with all these carriers is it's not about the agent anymore. It's about keeping the company in existence, and that doesn't involve you. So I wished I had made this move many years ago.
Yeah.
It has not been easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. It's been very, very difficult. But I wished I'd done it sooner.
Yeah.
So, if you're captive out there, don't wait. You can call me. I talk to farmers guys. Probably I'm having lunch with a guy today. I probably talk to farmers guys 2 or 3 times a week with them asking me how I did it. What can I do? Like they're struggling. And so I talk to them and try and help them as much as I can. So
I would say that you better have a pocket full of cash to draw upon, because it's going to cost you more than you think it is, especially if you don't want to, just you write it and service it. You need an account manager to help you with that, or you're going to tap out on growth. And then have a way to have more cash later because you're going to need it. So cash flows, it's real.
Yeah.
And you don't get your first commission check, the day you sell the policy.
No. Good advice. Good advice. And Nick, that's something for those that have made the jump. I mean, that's to a person. That's basically the message is don't wait, just do it. I mean, it's not easy. The learning curve is not easy. Going through the growth pains, starting over, not easy, but it's worth it.
It's
going to be so worth it. Going to be. It's a long game. Yeah.
It's this side of the business is true entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
They sell you on the captive side that you are a business owner and that you get to, make your own way. That's not true.
No,
it's 100% not true. On this side, you're in control. The carrier makes you upset. They change your commission structure. That's fine. I don't have to write business with you. There's a lot more choice, and it's a lot more freedom. That's for sure.
Yeah. 100%. Well put. Hey, fellas, thanks very much for doing this. I enjoyed it, and everybody else, thanks for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. And we'll see you next week.